right. Well, today on That's Classic, we have someone from a show that I have to admit I've always been so intrigued by. I mean, growing up, I would watch this show and be like, "Wow, how are they doing all this?" Anyway, today our guest, it's another fun one on That's Classic, is none other than Barbara Minkus, who is one of the Love American Style players, and I believe you will definitely remember her. She was in a million of the vignettes on Love American Style, to say the least. So anyway, Barbara, thank you so much for being here.
Well, I'm delighted, and it was fun meeting you. It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. One thing I want to say just to everybody out there real quick before we get started is make sure you go to www.youtube.com/that'sclassictv so you can actually see Barbara and I doing the interview, or any of the other celebrities that I've spoken to. So anyway, Barbara, right out of the gates, Love American Style. I saw you were on it for 6 seasons, and you were, I mean, really funny, some great stuff. But did you, how did you audition for that? How did that all come about in the first place?
Oh, this is a funny story. I do tell funny stories. I was up for Happy Days, and it was between me and this unknown actress named Penny Marshall.
Oh my gosh.
Who was also the producer's sister.
Yeah, of course.
So needless to say, I did not get it. But the producer, her brother, Gary, told the producers of Love American Style, this little girl auditioned for me, and she's absolutely nice things. He said she's absolutely blank, 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 fill in the blank.
He's one of the nicest guys that was ever in the business. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he basically told them about me, and then I went up to meet them, and it was history in the making. I had a wonderful time doing Love American Style.
Did you for the audition, because you did so many of the vignettes with Stuart Margolin, and did you audition with him?
No, I never auditioned.
Oh, just talked.
It's called nepotism.
Wow.
I went to meet them because Gary had recommended me, and Stuart's brother, Arnold, was or still is, he's with us, yes, was the producer.
Yeah, so, right.
Said, oh, you'd be, you're in. We like it. We like you. So that was it. And honestly, I had just moved to California from New York. And that's another story I'll tell you when you get to it. Yeah. And how fortunate I was.
Well, did you have because it's funny, you did all these vignettes, but I always felt like this character that was who you played. Was it always pretty much that same character,
Fern.
And then you developed
it? Yeah, Fern.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked mostly with Stuart.
As Lamar.
Yeah, as Lamar, but also Jimmy Hampton, who recently passed away, who was wonderful. The 6 of us really were a family. Phyllis Davis, the beautiful brunette in the bikini.
Yeah, right. I remember one distinctly where she's walking by and he takes the towel and he throws it over the top of you on the beach. Yeah.
Right. That's my part.
Yeah. I
left at the altar, thrown over the cliff, or buried in the sand.
I mean, just great stuff. Did you shoot, by the way, I noticed that a lot of beach scenes, but also I saw a lot of like park scenes that look like the cliffs above Santa Monica to me.
You're absolutely correct. We shot a lot in Santa Monica. We shot the parks were at right off of Ocean, the park there. And then we shot the beach scenes in Paradise Cove, which was beautiful. And we also went to the park if people are listening that are in California, Los Angeles, in Santa Monica, right off of 26th Street, and Wilshire is a lovely little park.
Yeah,
so
I know.
Shot blackouts there too, and which was for me the most favorite was that we shot on Paramount Lot, and like in Old Town and Western Town, and I love that especially.
Who would you, when you were on the Paramount Lot, who might you see during that time that would have been shooting their shows or had been on that you recall?
Probably no one. I don't remember.
Really? No, you were in your own world, huh?
We were in our own world, and we, we ate at the commissary, which
Wow.
would have seen people, but it was odd hours, and I just never really saw too many other people.
Wow, that's so cool that you were there. Now, people that, well, first of all, Stuart Margolin, let's I guess we'll stay on there for a second. Did
Sure.
you who of course went on to do Rockford Files and other things. Did you what was your, because you spent so much time together, what was your relationship like when, you were offset?
It was a wonderful family. We were friends. I wasn't married at the time, and I think none of us were really married at the time.
Mhm.
We were all kind of young. And so we connected a lot, and no, but even more so when we did the show, because there was a regular director most of the time, which was Charlie Rondow.
Mhm.
He's not with us any longer, but he was such a funny man. And Stuart would say to Charlie, I have an idea for a blackout. Can I do it? Can we do it? And then he'd say to me, and I love improv, just love improv. So
Yeah.
then he'd say, okay, here's what we're doing. We're at the park, and you have a slip-on underneath, don't you, Barbara? I said, yes, I do. Yeah. He said, in those days we all wore slips.
Yeah.
And he said, well, here's the deal. I'm sitting and I'm reading a book, and you put some money in your pocket. It's a
I know
classic.
the scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. And he said, and I want you to walk by and notice me as I'm reading, and you think I'm cute. And I said, well, true. And then he said, okay, and then I want you to try to get my attention, which I do. And it just keeps reading. So I take off my jacket. No, first I take off my skirt and I throw it on the ground. And he's still reading. And then I take off, I think
It was your scarf. You had a scarf.
my scarf, and I take off my
Mhm.
scarf. Thank you, you're hired. And
Okay.
he's reading, and then I go like this. The guy doesn't notice me, and then I take off my jacket, and when I take off my jacket, the change falls out.
It's so great.
Right?
Yeah.
And he looks down, not at me at all, but looks down and sees the change, and goes and picks up the change, puts it in his pocket, closes the book, and leaves. And I look at the camera and I go,
Right.
Barbara
Right.
Minkus look.
Was the best.
Yeah.
Did you?
So he wrote a lot of those blackouts. He was a genius. He recently passed away.
Did you? It's interesting that you said that about the improv, because I thought that the whole time. I kept thinking, are they writing these, or were some of these like just on the spot? Because some of the lines would be one line, but
A lot of them were written, but a lot of them, like, I don't know if you remember, there's also another classic. There's this tunnel that we go through, the little kids that nowadays have this toy tunnel.
Yeah.
And it starts out where one person goes in, right? And then Stuart said, let's all come out. Just one person comes in.
Oh, yeah. One at a time come out of the end. Yeah.
I mean, he would just go improvise on something that was already a blackout. So it was a lot of fun.
Is that the one, by the way, where at the very end you haul out this massive surfboard out of the tunnel?
That's right.
I mean, I'm sorry, it was so funny because it was so random when the surfboard comes out.
So Stuart, I mean,
Oh
we
my
all
gosh.
loved, we loved working with the writers. They were great. And a lot of them Arnold wrote, because he's a great writer, and Stuart's brother, Arnold Margolin. But it was just a love. It really was, I was disappointed that when I got it, that I thought, well, I'm going to be on Love American Style, which of course I was only in the blackouts, the little stories in between, the bigger stories with the famous people.
Right.
And I was really disappointed. But it turned out to be such a wonderful experience. I
Oh,
mean,
big.
stories that go on and on about what great people I was working with. I mean,
What did you ever have? You know, it's funny. It was all hysterical to me, but did you ever have instances where anything was, you know, dangerous or something just kind of went a little wrong? Like there's one I noticed. There's one where you're on like a picnic blanket with Stuart, and I think it's Stuart. It might have been William Calloway actually, but
oh, I love
it's
him.
the bike goes right behind you, and a football comes flying in, a frisbee comes flying in. I was just curious, was it ever like or
No,
somebody, you
no,
know?
it was that was the joke.
Yeah,
That all this stuff was going on and we were only centered on each other.
yeah, and you never got hit or anything. Another one that got me too is
Oh,
you're on the beach, one of the scenes, and literally, I mean, you cannot improv that. You get sand thrown right into your face and your mouth.
yeah.
I'm like, how did you guys keep that out of your eyes? I mean, come on.
Who would have thought that I would have married an eye doctor? I'm set. Yeah, we did just, we didn't think about those things. It was all for the joke. It was all for the fun.
Wow. Wow.
So
What about, so with the guest stars that they had on, you know, I mean,
I never
everybody
saw
was
them.
on there. Did you meet any of them? Because you were off doing your thing.
Yeah, I think Stuart did a couple of the the bigger stories, and
Yeah.
Phyllis did a couple, and I never did. No, never did.
Gotcha.
And
Yeah.
people keep saying, "Oh, I loved you, and I saw you on Love Boat." I say, "Thank you." Same producers.
Oh
They
my
just
gosh.
hadn't figured out how
Mhm.
to bring in that us into the regular stories. But Love Boat, the cast was in the regular stories.
Oh yeah, right. Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah. Big
So,
difference. Were you so by the way, just with Stuart, as time went on, did you guys stay close up until he passed?
we went, he was, they were, he was originally from Canada,
Hmm.
and he and had a great career acting in Canada also. So I think he moved to the East Coast, and we didn't have reunions
Hmm.
then. And so I never really got to see him much, other than when we would still be doing the show. So,
Hmm.
but Arnold had stayed and still has stayed a wonderful close friend to me.
Wow,
So,
great.
and he also lives now in New York, but he is responsible for suggesting to me that it's time that I wrote a one-woman show. I was in New York, and I came for a surprise birthday party, and I met Arnold at this very beautiful restaurant on 59th Street in Columbus Circle. I can't remember the name of it, but it was a beautiful restaurant. And I figured, oh, he's just going to fill me with compliments, right?
Yeah, 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 of course.
So
Wow.
we're at lunch, and he says to me, Barbara, I'm so glad you invited me to your show. And Barbara, there are a lot of singers that are older singers. And I go, that are just as good or even better than you. And I went, and he said, however, I don't know anyone who can tell a story like you. And I think you should write a one-woman show. And I think you should call it I'm Not Famous. And
Wow.
I think that you should get in touch with Susan Morgenstern, because I think the two of you would be terrific writing a show together. So as soon as I got back to LA, I contacted Susan, and she said, yeah, sure. So we got together, and I started telling her my stories, and
Wow.
she recorded them on her computer.
Yeah.
And then she said to me, Barbara, this is a wonderful show. I said, it is? She said, yeah, let's do it. So we wrote the first show right away.
Wow. Is that 18 Minutes of Fame? Is that the one that?
Well, no, the original show was called I'm Not Famous.
I see.
So then I tried to have it be produced in New York at the York Theater, because my dream was to go back to New York and do a show that I really like, because I've gone back to New York many times and done shows that were okay, but
I got you. Yeah.
not like I wanted them to be. So I went to the York Theater and met with the director, Jim Morgan, and he said, Barbara, this is great, but I don't like a negative. You have to think of a positive.
Wow.
And then we'll talk about you coming. We're still talking. How many years later? Okay.
Wow.
So I said, okay. And so I was driving and I said, I've got to think of another title. I mean, granted, I had 15 minutes of fame, but why don't I say I had 18 minutes of fame? Because,
Funny.
and I'm with myself, talking to myself.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
18 is a very lucky number in Hebrew. It means life.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, that's it. I'm going to cross out the 15, and I'm going to write 18.
I have to ask you a question. Going back to Love American Style, by the way, because I was blown away by this. Is it true that you ended up with the brass bed that you did all those scenes with Stuart?
A wedding gift.
What? It's so wild. Really? That's pretty cool.
I don't have it anymore. Well, I had this blind date while I was doing Love American Style, and
yeah.
And I invited him to the set. Little did I know that the producers and director was going to have me coming out as a very pregnant woman, country girl, and the
funny.
Mama, you gotta marry me. Right. And I'm very pregnant. And of course, so he loved it. And as time went on, we got engaged.
Yeah.
And actually, our engagement party was the same night of the last show of Love American Style.
Oh,
and
how wild.
I wanted to look gorgeous. So I asked wardrobe if, they would help me with my outfit. And I asked makeup if they would help me with my makeup. And I asked the hair department if they would, spruce me up.
That's cool.
I was getting engaged to Arnie Barron.
Wow.
And we had the last season, Arnold wasn't producing, there was a different producer, and he decided to do gorillas. We were all wearing gorilla costumes. So I made sure that I wasn't going to be a gorilla the last scene before we close. Right? Because I had to look good for the party.
Yeah.
So little did I know that the whole schedule was changed. And the producer comes to my dressing room and tells me, we had like trailers. And he said, Barbara, we switched things around at the end of the, we're going to do the gorilla stuff at the end. And we're going to do the one that you and the rest of and Stuart are in the end. Oh, okay. So I couldn't stop crying, and wardrobe was upset. And hair was. My cronies were upset, So Phyllis comes into the dressing room, and she has this wonderful accent, Barbara, honey, and she's much taller than me, because I'm only. If I say I'm 5'1", right? But I
get it.
4'11" and whatever.
Yeah.
Probably going down as we speak.
Yeah.
So Phyllis says, Barbara, honey, I know how upset you are. I'm going to do your gorilla.
Oh, my gosh.
And to this day, no one knows except John and me that I did not do the gorilla. I got out early so I could look good for my engagement party.
Oh, that's so cool.
So, I mean, I get a little verklempt because
you should. That's cool.
That's a friend.
That's a dear friend that did that. That's pretty cool. And then the show says, hey, here's the brass bed. I mean,
well, that was really Arnold. They were wonderful to me. They were so happy.
How did they present it to you? How did they say, hey,
you the brass bed?
Wow.
But the problem is that it fell apart.
Well, you used it all over the place. I mean, come on.
It was gunner.
Yeah.
It was,
Still, that's so funny. That's like one of those pieces of memorabilia, and it's like, oh my gosh, it actually went like that.
kept falling apart. We didn't have the people from the set to come and fix it.
Right.
My husband said, that's it. We're done. We're getting a bed.
Did the other one I noticed a couple things. You were on the Danny Kaye show. Now was that multiple appearances, or I saw you sang a song, "We Kiss"? We Kiss in a Shadow. Is that right?
No, Once Upon a Time.
It was what?
Once Upon a Time.
Once Upon a Time. Okay, and
I was signed for 8 shows for the Danny Kaye show, and Danny had to have power of a decision, first choice. And the producer saw me in a show that I was in New York called Bits and Pieces. It was a review at the Plaza Hotel. And he came right up and said, I want you to come to Los Angeles. I want you to be a girlfriend to this nerdy guy, Lamar. Can't remember his name. But anyway, I'll think of it. Jerome. And you're going to be not Fern. You're going to be Rhoda Crandallman.
Wow.
And Jerome. And I said, oh, okay. And I got so excited. I borrowed money to have a gown made.
Oh, wow.
And I had a wonderful arrangement of Once Upon a Time. And I got to the producer picked me up and took me to the set. And he said, wait till you see your set. And I said, wait till you see my gown.
Wow.
And he takes me to the set, and it's a dusty attic.
Oh.
He said, Barbara, I see you sitting here in this attic, and rain is falling on the window. It's really beautiful. You can Google, it's on, you can find it. And you can, rain is falling on the window, and you're wearing a sweatshirt and jeans. We'll get you the sweatshirt, honey. Thrifted.
Oh, geez.
And don't worry, you can wear your gown for the bows.
Oh.
And now I want to take you and introduce you to Danny. My idol. Danny Kaye. And Garland.
Icon.
So Danny is playing catch with his friend Sandy Koufax, famous.
Come on.
So the producer says to Danny, Danny, I want you to meet Barbara Minkus. Wait till you hear her sing. And Barbara is funny too. So Danny turns and looks at me. And then he says to the producer, I get bad vibes. Get rid of her.
Oh, no.
I'm standing there and my heart dropped. And the producer is very embarrassed. And he says, Barbara, honey, why don't you go to the dressing room and I'll work all this out. Don't worry about it. So I go to the dressing room and I never leave my dressing room. I never rehearse with Danny Kaye. He refused to rehearse with me.
Oh my gosh.
I never met Danny Kaye other than his first meeting with me.
Oh my gosh.
Before we did the scene, before I sang, he said, and it's on, he said, ladies and gentlemen, that very funny girl, that little funny girl is also a wonderful singer. And I want you to hear her now. I'm going to start to cry when I tell this story. Barbara Minkus.
Wow.
That's the first time I ever heard that. And it was an incredible introduction from a big star.
Oh, Danny Kaye?
And after I sang and after the 2 tapings were over, the producer came to my dressing room and he said, Barbara, honey, it didn't work out and we're going to let you go.
Wow.
We're going to show this one show. This is part of show business that nobody can really explain.
No.
Because it's a wonderful experience, but you have to know that happens.
Yeah, I know. And you have to have a skin that's thicker than granite.
I ran right back to New York. I couldn't stay, and I was
Sure.
have all sorts of auditions, and it's a part of my show, this story.
Oh, I get it. I get it.
I didn't know until 2 years ago the real ending to the story, because we had a Love American Style like a reunion at
Yeah.
Paramount,
Yeah.
50th reunion, and I invited all the writers from the reunion and the people that were at the reunion, and and really nice. I'd never met most of the writers. They
Uh-huh.
came,
Yeah.
and one of them, after the show, I did 18 Minutes of Fame
Uh-huh.
following weekend at the Braid Theater, and the one of them came and said, "I'm going to tell you the end of your story."
Oh, wow.
And the end of the story is that when Danny Kaye found out that the producer had hired me, he said, "We'll let her do the show, but that's it." And he had done this 3 times
Oh
when
my
the
gosh.
producers went ahead and hired someone.
Oh, wow.
So it had nothing really to do with me. It had to do with his need to, be the chooser. But
Yeah,
I never knew that story until that day.
oh my God, that had to give you a little bit of relief. By the way, I have heard, that's why I was really curious how you were going to say. I have done a lot of reading, and Danny Kaye has a very sordid background when it comes to that. He was supposed to be very much, and I think I'm putting it lightly, a bit of a control freak. And so it doesn't surprise me.
But here
Not at
he,
all.
well, it doesn't now,
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that I know
Oh,
the end, because
huge.
it was a sad part of my life. I mean, I immediately went to New York and I was asked to be Lucy in Charlie Brown. So
Right.
I had, and then I went to do Funny Girl, the touring of Funny Girl. And then I starred on Broadway and co-starred on Broadway in a show called The Education of Hyman Kaplan. So, I mean, we had
Right.
long,
One door closes, another door opens.
that's my whole, that's
Uh,
part of my show.
you mentioned the Kaplan play that you were in. Tom Bosley was in that. Am I right?
Phenomenal person.
Yeah, I was going to say, what was he like? Because I have a lot of Happy Days fans that are subscribers to my channel.
Nicest person. One of the nicest people I have ever met. And the show is directed by George Abbott.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And we opened April 4th, 1968.
Wow.
That
Wow.
was the night Martin Luther King
I
was.
was just going to say, oh my gosh.
So needless to say,
Ooh,
that show didn't last too long. And all of Broadway,
no.
of course, went dark that week. And
Oh,
I was a regular on the Merv Griffin show, and I had asked Merv if he would help us keep the show on. And Tom said that he would come on the Merv Griffin show with me.
wow.
And Merv said no.
What?
It's too touchy a subject, and it's too touchy a time right now, Barbara.
Oh, it's so tough. How was your relationship with Merv? Because I was curious. Did you play like characters on Merv Griffin, or was it
What happened was that Merv Griffin had heard me on a radio show called the Joe Franklin Radio Show.
Mhm.
He's not with us anymore. And I was always telling stories and then singing a song. I mean, I didn't know it was going to eventually lead to me writing a show years later.
Oh, sure.
I told a story about my mother, who my dad owned a department store in Chicago, Leslie's department store.
Wow.
3527 Armitage Avenue. And my mother was my father's biggest shoplifter. So I told that story, and Merv heard it, the radio show, and I was contacted the next day by their talent coordinator and said, "Is this Barbara Minkus?" And I said, "Yes." And in those days, you could find people immediately. You
Oh
can't
yeah,
right
big
now.
difference.
And he said, "Well, Merv wants you to be on the show, on his show, but here's what he wants, Barbara. He wants you to tell a story and then sing a song."
Wow. Wow.
And on my first Merv Griffin show, I sat on the sofa next to him, and my feet, I'm little, feet didn't touch the floor.
Oh, wow.
I told the shoplifting story. And then I sang one of my favorite songs written by Haley. What's his name? I'm losing my mind. See what happens when you get older. It was called Nobody. I'll find out the name of that one too. And it was brilliant. It was a great song. And you should Google it because it's such a great song. And
Was he touched? Was he pretty touched by the whole thing?
Yeah, it was pretty made up for Danny Kaye.
I gotcha. Well, I've heard good things on Merv, by the way. I actually have a background in voiceover as well. I did a spot with Merv, and I found him to be one of the nicest, just a really good guy. So I'm glad to hear that. Actually,
wonderful person, and I invited the producer to come and see the Murray Schwartz. You should read his book; it's really good. Red Mill is the name of the book. I invited him to come see the show, but he couldn't. This my now show.
Yeah,
make it, and I was really I really loved doing the Merv Griffin show.
How many appearances did you make on Merv then?
Well, I say I did about 25, but I probably did less.
Well, either way, whatever you did.
Oh, I mean,
Was it always a story in a song? Yeah.
And the last one, the last one wasn't too great. I had signed with a very famous producer a manager who managed Liza Minnelli.
Wow.
I mention names.
Yeah.
And was Johnny Carson's manager, and big. And he said, I'm taking you off of the Merv Griffin show, and I'm getting you ready for bigger and better things. And they were really shocked. No, well, I'll tell them you're coming back on when you're ready.
Oh, no.
Well, I was never ready. It was never ready, okay?
You had a good gig going, yeah.
Oh, so he finally says, okay, you're going to sing You Do Something to Me, to a picture of Arthur Treacher. Sitting at a vanity table. How old-fashioned can you get?
Oh my gosh.
So I don't think they were too thrilled with
no
my coming back.
And you went on then to do the Tonight Show too, right?
Yeah, I did, but I didn't talk in the Tonight Show. I just sang.
Was that true?
Life, one of my favorite arrangements of Henderson. Oh, God, I'm losing my mind, but that's okay. Just a phenomenal arrangement of That's Life that I do in my show now. I do it after I tell the story about Hyman Kaplan opening the night Martin Luther King was killed. And instead of singing it the way I used to sing it, which is That's Life.
Yeah.
That's people say you're riding high in April, shot down in May. I said to my musical director, why don't you do it as a gospel? And I'm going to talk about right after the show closed, and I go sit down and I sing, and I say to the audience, he's playing this gospel music, and it stops, and I say, That's Life. Then he plays a little more gospel, and I say, that's what people say. You're riding high in April and shot down in May. But I know I'm gonna change that tune when I'm back on top come June. And it's so wonderful.
It's so meaningful.
The whole song is a gospel about brushing yourself off and starting all over. And I go like this, start all over again. And I'm just telling you that is like finding something, even something old as a performer, and retooling it where it has special meaning. It's almost like a play.
Right.
Song is a play.
Yeah.
And it's a real highlight for me. I think the audience too.
Did you, when you sang on the Tonight Show, then did you meet or even get a chance to say hi to Johnny, or was it like?
Yeah, he introduced me, and I came out and I sang, and he said, thank you.
But he wasn't like afterwards, like, because I've heard once the cameras were off, it was like he was very private, like he didn't associate with.
No. But
Yeah.
Luther Henderson, that's who did the arrangement. It was
Gotcha.
worth it. It was worth it.
Oh, of course it was. You kidding me?
Just to do the Tonight Show and have a Luther Henderson arrangement of That's Life.
And you were on the Tonight Show. Come
So that
on.
was just great, but nothing could beat Merv Griffin.
Yeah, I got
No
you.
show I've ever been on, I mean, as far as singing and talking, has ever been like the Merv Griffin show.
I get
And
it.
I told that to Murray Schwartz,
Mhm.
because they were so confused. I came
Ah.
after a 5-month hiatus and I sang a song to Arthur Treacher that this new manager who
Oh, how many managers have ruined careers or steered you the wrong
that was
way?
the end of that relationship.
Yeah, what a joke. So you mentioned earlier, you're a good man, Charlie Brown. I was curious because when I was doing some research, it said that you were in the original New York recording cast. Who was in that cast? I was trying to remember.
Great. Okay, well, Clark Gessner wrote it, and Orson Bean played Charlie.
Oh, wow.
And all the other people, Skippy Hennett, that went on to do the show.
Yeah. Gary Burghoff?
No, that's another story.
Oh, wow.
Was on the record. So I said to Clark, you have to make this into a play. And of course I'll be in it and write Lucy a love song. I always thinking of ideas. So Clark said yes. And I said, and I have the perfect person for you to use. I'm going to call him. I did a SAG, new performers show with him, and he's just fantastic. I'm going to call him, and I call him, and it's Gary, it's Barbara. I want you to audition for this wonderful show that I'm going to do. And Gary said, Barbara, I quit show business. I'm going back to Connecticut. And I said, what? This is also the show, and it's true. I said, you are not quitting show business.
Oh my gosh.
You are Charlie Brown. And the rest is history.
I mean, that is history. That's wild. And then his career obviously soars later.
What happened is that when we had our dress rehearsal, and I was Lucy.
Yeah.
And I loved Clark. I brought the show to all my friends. My agent produced it. My friend Arthur Whitelaw.
Oh my gosh, you were like really involved in this.
I got 0. I just love doing this stuff. I love putting people together. So after the dress rehearsal, a big director, Milton Koutselis, and a big producer, Zev Buffman, came backstage, and Zev said, I'm doing a touring company of Funny Girl, and we're opening at my theater in Florida at the Coconut Grove Playhouse, and then the Parker Playhouse. And Charlotte Rae is going on the tour with us. She's playing Fanny Bryce's mother. And we think that the two of you will absolutely be phenomenal. But we have to know tonight if you'll do it.
Oh, wow.
I said, I'll do it. And then I didn't get such a happy response.
Yeah.
And except from my understudy.
Oh my gosh.
Who went on to do it, and she was wonderful. Her name
is that Reva or something like that?
Reva Rose.
Yeah.
And Arthur I still haven't talked to Arthur all these years later. He just was so angry at me, and I understand, but I couldn't say no.
I
mean, Lucy was a cartoon character.
Right.
Fanny Bryce, I got to do this I did it for a year and a half.
Oh, wow. That was a big gig.
And 5 different productions. And I had to do that.
No, you think you did the right thing.
Had to do it. Well, thank you. But
I mean, really, come on. In that moment, you can't look back on that. It's led to so many things.
Clark, who remained my best friend until he passed away, said, Barbara, I understand. You have to forgive Arthur. everybody's made a lot of money because of you.
Oh my gosh. I mean, Gary Burghoff literally there might not have been a radar if it hadn't been for you saying, get in there and do Charlie Brown.
He was, I haven't talked to him in years, but he's always been my friend and I love him.
Wow.
He
that's really something.
Yeah, he's always been a good friend. But anyway, I went on and met my husband, and I have these 2 kids, and I've got these 4 little grandchildren, and I'm still acting and singing, and I'm very happy.
Yeah, and Barbara, and you're here, and you're still doing it, and that's a huge thing. So anyway, but that's great. That is really good.
Yeah, but I'm still hoping to, that I can do my show in Florida next season. I'm still hoping that my dream that the York Theater will do it.
Yeah.
And, and I love this show. It's a wonderful, I'm not saying it bragging.
No, I can tell how much it means to you.
I'm very grateful to Susan Morgenstern for she directed all 5 of the productions. And we co-wrote it. They're my stories, but her placement and finesse of directing and timing, it's co-wrote because she's just brilliant.
Well, so, I will look for it. I'm sure people out there that if they make it to either Florida or to any of the locations where you might be, maybe they'll go. But and if somebody wants to reach out or they want to get an autograph or something, can they go to like barbaraminkus.com and reach you?
Absolutely. And if you want, there's also, we call them sizzle reels, but there's like 6 minutes of 18 minutes of fame in the film, in the stage and film. It's quite good. And About Life is also, the YouTube show is also something that they can click on and watch. So, I would love that. And I want to real quickly, do I have a minute to tell you that somebody contacted me from the show, via the show through my agent, LA Talent, and said, would you send me an autographed picture? It's for my father. He's 95 and he was your driver for Love American Style when you went to the beach and the mountains.
Oh, wow.
And I said, are you kidding? Of course. And he said, my father always said of all the celebrities, this is going to make me cry, of all the celebrities that he worked with, and he drove a lot of them, there was this cute little Jewish lady was so positive and so sweet. And I said, would you tell your father how much that meant to me? He's in a I guess a retirement home now.
Yeah.
And the son has written me a couple times how much it meant to his father. That is where it's at.
Yep, I agree. I agree with you. That is really a touching moment to end this on. I have to tell you, because that's cool. I agree with you. That is what it's all about.
I'd love to hear from people. And John, I knew immediately that I liked you. I'm so happy that you asked me to do this. Thank you. And I'll keep you posted if I ever do the show again.
Okay. All right. No, I do. I appreciate it. All right. Thank you so much, Barbara. I really appreciate you.
And I'm off to see if I can get this big commercial, Allstate, playing a gutsy grandmother.
You'll have no problem. All right. I'll see you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
As always, thanks for listening, and please hit the subscription button and the notification bell so that you can be notified when I have a new episode. And also go check out some of my other episodes, like Jerry Mathers, Henry Winkler, Judy Norton, so many. Enjoy.